So today I finally tried out a build I've been wanting to try out for a while. I was just looking for the right pieces, and then finally one of my friends was like, look, you need to try out the Negotiators build. Put it together, let me know what you think. And I've been messing with it. I've been messing around with it. I recently got some really good pieces for it. So I was like, you know what? I can pair this up with some other pieces I've had. I still want some better pieces, as I'll explain to you when we break down the build. But what's crazy about this build is, as you're noticing, I'm hitting one enemy, but I'm hitting another enemy for over 1,000,000. Yes, 1,000,000 damage. When I hit those crits, that damage does go over to the other enemy. Not all of it, but 60% of it. And we'll explain the full build, how it works, and why I think this is a really good build. And a lot of people might be overlooking it. Also, what's really cool about this build is it works on the enemy's skills. So if an enemy has a deployed shield, you can shoot that shield. If you're critting on it, it will also affect the enemy to my right. If you notice, I was shooting the shield, I ended up killing the enemy. So that's what's really cool about this build. But let's get into how this build works and what you need to know. Now, right off the bat, you can see I'm running 724,000 armor, 294,000 health. We have 10 reds, 1 blue, which ideally I would like to have 11 reds, 0 blues. Now, I am running the gunner specialization. You can choose whatever specialization you want. I feel it works best with this build, running that one. So for my primary weapon, I am running the Baker's Dozen. It's hitting at a whopping 542,000 damage. It has 11% rifle damage, 15% critical hit damage, and 9.5% health damage. I have perfect lucky shot on here. That's what comes on the Baker's Dozen. You guys already know that. Magazine capacity of extra 30, and if you miss a shot, 100% chance to return to the magazine. The way I have this thing modded is I'm running a 5% crit hit chance scope on there. I have 5 extra rounds on the magazine, and then I have a 5% crit hit chance laser pointer. Now, as my secondary, I'm running the military P416, and it's really up to you on how you want to run this. Now, I have 99,000 base damage on here. We have 13% assault rifle damage, 11% health damage, and 10% headshot damage. And I rolled strained on there. Gain 10% critical hit damage for every 0.05% you are firing. Stacks up to 5 times. Now, the way we have this modded is we're running that C79 scope with 5% critical hit chance. We have a sturdy mag, 20 plus rounds. We have a laser pointer 5 crit chance, and then we have a muzzle 5% crit hit damage. So these are the 2 weapons I am running. But we are running this build with the Negotiators Dilemma, which is probably becoming one of my favorite builds to run now that I've gotten to play around with it. Now, the 2-piece gives you 15% crit hit chance. The 3-piece gives you that 20% crit hit damage, but I never recommend running just a 3-piece. If you're going to run a gear set, the 4-piece is usually the way to go. So what the 4-piece does is critical hits mark enemies for 20 seconds up to 3 marks. Now, this is what a mark looks like. As soon as I crit this enemy right in front of me, you're going to see the Negotiators Dilemma symbol right above him. You see him? It was that red symbol. That means you have marked the enemy. When you critically hit a marked enemy, all other marked enemies take 60% of that damage dealt. And that's what you might have noticed in this shot right here. As I'm critting the enemy on the left, you can see I'm hitting the enemy on the right for 1.2 million, 1.4 million. And that's how Negotiators works. Now, whenever a marked enemy dies, you gain 2% critical hit damage, stacking up to 20 times. So what does that mean? You can have up to 40% critical hit damage. And now this does end when the combat ends. So as soon as you clear an area, it does end. That's why if you use this during like control points, it's a really good place to take full advantage of actually gaining that extra critical hit damage. Now, the way I have this whole build set up, let's dive into that. Now, we do have a 4-piece Negotiators. For the mask, I am running 12.7% weapon damage, and then I rolled 6% critical hit chance. Not a bad mask. For the chest piece, I'm running a Providence chest piece that's giving me 10% headshot damage. Ideally, I would like to have a Cheska chest piece, but to get these all red on a Cheska, which I'm going to show you right here, is going to be very tough, but it does give me that 10% critical hit chance. Now, I would love if I can get a backpack or a chest piece with the Cheska with these types of rolls, I would. So I'm running 15% weapon damage, 9.2% critical hit damage. We have 3.7% critical hit chance, and then I have 11.3% critical hit damage mod. I have glass cannon on here. All damage you deal is amplified by 25%, but all damage you intake is amplified by 50%. If you hate glass cannon, you could try something like Spark, Spotter. I'll let you guys just mess with that yourself. I personally like glass cannon. For the holster, our second piece of Negotiators, we have 15% weapon damage, and then we have 12% critical hit damage on here. Now, you should be deciding what rolls you're rolling because you want to make sure you get that 60% critical hit chance on your build. For the knee pads, I have 15% weapon damage. I would love to have 6% critical hit chance right here over that 4% headshot damage. I don't want that headshot damage on here. I would rather have critical hit chance right here. Now, for the gloves, we have the fourth piece of Negotiators. We have 15% weapon damage and 12% critical hit damage. Another God roll Negotiator. So I have 2 God roll pieces right there. For the backpack, we are running the Overlord backpack, and this isn't a perfect backpack, but it gives me 10% rifle damage. It gives me 12.1% weapon damage. It has critical hit chance already on there. I put a mod on there for 6% critical hit chance, and then the attribute itself, I would love to have critical hit damage there over the health. We have Vigilance, increased total weapon damage by 25%. Taking damage disables this buff for 4 seconds. Now, if you have perfect Vigilance, remember it's the same thing, but you get it back every 3 seconds. Now, if you don't like running Vigilance, Unstoppable Force is another really good talent. I always mix match these. Unstoppable Force, killing an enemy increases total weapon damage by 5% for 15 seconds. You can stack this up to 5 times. So, however you guys decide to run this is really up to you. I think they're both a great way to run either Unstoppable Force or Vigilance. Now, this is exactly how I run this build. Now, if you don't want to run a primary rifle, then you might want to get rid of Overlord, and you could probably put something like Fenris. So you would want to have 1 piece Fenris, 1 piece Cheska, or 1 piece Overlord, 1 piece Cheska. Now, for the mods, I'm running the Fixer Drone. I run that always when I'm running solo. It's the only type of heal I have in solo play. And then I run the Reviver Hive. Those are the 2 main skills that I do run solo. Why I think this is pretty cool is, say if you have 3 enemies that rush you and you're able to mark all 3 enemies, like right here, I'm just going to hit the guy in the back. I'm going to crit him. He gets marked. As soon as I crit on this guy once, look, the guy in the back dies. Now, imagine if these were some tanks, right? What if they're like some heavies and I'm able to crit all 3 of those guys and I can just focus on one guy while the other guys are consistently taking that high damage from my rifle crits. It's a really good way to run a build to spread out your damage with only running 1 weapon, right? Like I'm not running a turret, I'm just hitting 1 guy, but I'm damage affecting all the guys around. And what I really love about it is, say if you mark 1 enemy and he goes into cover, right? He's already marked. So you don't have to worry about it. You can leave him in cover. You can start focusing on the other guy who's out of cover, and that enemy in cover is going to be taking damage. And most likely, if you get enough crits, that enemy will die because you're critting for so much. And you guys saw earlier, I was critting for like 1.2, 1.4 was 60% of my damage was going to that enemy, which is pretty insane, right? And that's why working this with a rifle build works pretty good. And if you guys want to run it with the AR build, you guys can. But look at this right here. I have multiple of them marked. All these guys are marked right here, but they're starting to drop, right? All I have to do is mark 3 of them and at least hit 1 of them that is marked. Look at this image right here. I have a guy marked in the back. I'm critting the guy in the front. The guy in the back dies. And it even gets cooler with this build. Take a look at this part. If you focus at enemies deployed skill or deploy shield or their turret and you mark it, right? So you crit it and you mark it. Look, it's his shield right there is marked. I'm hitting it, and any enemies, like the enemy right here, right? Any enemies that are around here that are marked, look, I'm gonna mark this guy back here, are gonna take damage. So wait for me to mark him. He's marked. I go back to the shield. So they're deploy skilled, and he's gonna start taking those crits and end up dying. You see how he died? Because he died from those crits, that 60% crit that went over to him. And that's pretty impressive. It's almost like having a status effect, but with raw damage. It even works when they're running a shield. So say if you're fighting an enemy that has a big old shield in front of them and you're critting on that shield, if you have another enemy in the background that's already marked, all those crits, that 60% crit damage is going to go to them. And that's why I really do like how this whole Negotiators was reworked for Title Update 8. So remember, if you guys want to run this build, I recommend if you can get a Cheska with the same type of rolls that you see on that Providence or on the backpack, and you can switch them, right? But the main thing is you want to have those 2 talents, either Vigilance, Unstoppable Force, and Glass Cannon, or you can run another DPS talent on the chest. Now, some of you guys might want to run maybe the exotic chest piece, so that way you could be more of a team player. I'll let you guys decide all of that. But this 4-piece, I think this is where Negotiators does really shine, and It's one of those builds I think you guys should put together, test out for yourself, and see how it works. I really think this in the raid will excel because there's so many heavy enemies, like so many enemies out there that take so much damage. It's going to make it really easy when you do mark 3 of them. You can just focus on the one enemy, as those other enemies just start to take more and more damage, and then hopefully they die by the time you kill the first enemy. But this is how I run the build. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comment section. Let me know how you guys would run this build yourself. What weapons you prefer running this build with. I'm gonna wrap the video up here, guys. Thank you guys again for all the support, but until the next one, Nothing But Skills is out.